Hi, and welcome to another live Snappy Chat on LinkedIn. I'm super excited. By the way, I'm Christine Bell. I always forget to say who I am. I'm Christine Bell. Got an accent. You can hear that from Denmark, but living in Australia. I'm a customer strategist, but we're not going to be talking about that because this is all about learning and growing together in business. And I'm super excited for my guest today, Derick. He is a very, very big name on LinkedIn, and I can't wait to hear what he has to share with us in terms of learning and growing together. So let's bring him on. Hello, Derick. Thank you so much for being here with me.
Hello, Christine. It's a pleasure and great to be joining you here today and the audience, and happy to give some insights and to answer any questions that people might have and to help in any way that I can. Great to be here.
I love that. And if anyone shows up, you never know. I will be looking at the comments as well in case they have any questions. And thank you so much for being here. And please tell us a little bit more about you. I think most people probably know you because you're a very big name on LinkedIn. You've done an incredible job on LinkedIn. So I think, not to say that's your challenge in your business, but I'd love to hear about that as well in terms of how you've done it. So please share about yourself.
Thank you. Sure. Well, officially, I first signed up to LinkedIn way back in 2004, but I did very little with it until 2013. And what literally happens, I was actually one of the first 2 million people to sign up to the platform, but I did very little with it. And then in 2013, I was working in an office and a friend of mine walked into the office and she literally said, "I've just heard LinkedIn described as the professional or business version of Facebook." And this was 11 years ago. And when she said that, I thought, that sounds interesting. Maybe I should have another look at that. Yeah. And so I managed to find my old original login details and logged into my account and discovered that I had a low 207 connections. And that's when my real journey on LinkedIn began, back in 2013. And so what I did was I had a look around the platform. I got comfortable with how the platform was working back then. And I looked around for people who I could see had an idea that, or they knew what they were doing on the platform. What they were doing was obviously working for them. And I looked at their profiles and I just started modeling myself on some of the things that I could see successful people were doing. And there were two people who I followed very strongly or almost religiously for probably the following couple of years. And one of them was writing articles. And at the time I was building websites. And so I started writing articles on LinkedIn and publishing them every week. And I learned a very valuable lesson. Those articles started generating leads for me. And I would get a message in my inbox or I would get an email and it would say, "We've seen your articles on LinkedIn. We'd like to talk to you about a website." So I would set up a call with them. And during that call, I would ask them, do you mind if I ask you, where have you come across me from? Where have you heard about me from? And they've said, "We've seen you from your articles in LinkedIn." And the interesting lesson was some of these people had liked and commented on my articles. And so therefore I recognized the name. But other people had just been sitting in the background and reading and watching. And that's when I learned that every piece of content that you put out there helps to position you, build your reputation, and position your brand. Okay. And so what I mean by that is your content literally helps to position you as a respected authority within your industry. Yeah. Okay. And then it was years later when I was on a conversation with one of the highly regarded influencers, and I'm friends with many of the influencers on the platform. I've even coached several of them. But it was during this conversation that he said to me, "Add value." And when he said add value, I then extended that to add value and educate without selling. Okay, because I knew that people don't like being sold to. And so this is when I started to realize that LinkedIn is basically, it's a couple of things. I describe it as a couple of things. Number one, it's the world's largest database of businesses, their owners, and their employees. Okay. It's also a tool that you use to get the conversation started, to establish, build, and nurture that relationship so that ultimately when the time is right, you can take that conversation to the next level, which is actually away from LinkedIn. And what I mean by add value and educate without selling is you put up content that adds value to your audience, that helps to position you as a respected authority within your industry, as the go-to person that people go to get the answers to the questions that they have. And if you do that without selling, you'll have more and more people come to you, because people don't like being sold to. Okay.
That is such a huge learning you got right there. I'm just going to say hello to Kelly. Thank you for being here. That's a huge learning. And I've been learning that as well, in terms of people, to the point where I just put out information at this point, or hopefully educational, valuable stuff. But I've taken out anything like, even taking out like any call to actions.
Look,
maybe that's too far.
It depends on what the call to action is and where you're directing that person to go next, or what you're directing them to do next. So if they want to reach out to you to find out more, that's okay. But if they want to go here to buy my product or service, then that's starting to sell. And it's a balancing act. One of the influencers gave me some very good advice. He said, you want to apply the 80 to 20% law. So 80% add value, 20% can be calls to action.
Okay, that's good to know.
And that made a lot of sense. So what I like to do is to add value and educate without selling. I also look at content as a way to start a conversation. So when you put up a post, somebody comments on that post, there's an interest there. Okay. And so replying to that comment with a meaningful comment, that's an opportunity to start a conversation with that person, an opportunity to start to build a professional relationship with that person, and to build your tribe. Okay. And it amazes me how many people I see who put up this great content, and they'll get 20 comments on the content on the post, and they don't reply to any of them. And I look at them and I think, you must be mad. You've got all of these people who are showing interest in what you're doing, and you're giving them a silent phone call. Okay.
Yeah. So, can I ask you something here? Because this is really interesting. I am doing my own social media. So it's me that you'll find on LinkedIn. It's not someone else. I haven't hired anyone to do it.
Yep.
But I do see a lot of people, and I understand the time issue. I have the time issue as well, that they have a virtual assistant who is replying to comments, or they're using AI to reply to comments, and it stands out, as I can tell. Yeah. That is not them.
Look, okay, so I'm going to be 100% honest. I use both.
Okay.
Excellent. I have a VA, okay, and I also use AI. But, and here's the point. My VA, she doesn't reply to comments. She has nothing to do with my content. Okay. In fact, all she basically does is do some work for me on the side. She has very little to do with my LinkedIn account at all. Okay. I have a AI platform that I use, and that does reply to people's comments, and it also comments on other people's posts, but it's very good. And if I have somebody who I'm building on that conversation with, who I'm building on that professional relationship with, then I probably won't use the AI to reply to their comments. Okay. It depends on
use it wisely. Yeah. So use it wisely depending on who you're actually talking to. Yeah. Because otherwise I've found, and I've had to pull back, that LinkedIn can become a full-time job if you're not careful, if you don't have someone to help you.
Yes. Now, the other thing too, let me qualify that, is there's a difference between AI and automation. And LinkedIn frowns on automation. If you have an automated platform, and let's face it, they're out there. If you use an automated platform to automatically send out your messages and to do all of that stuff completely automated, you run the risk of jeopardizing your account with LinkedIn. Okay. When you use AI to generate comments, you are manually adding those comments on people's posts, or manually adding those replies to comments on your own posts. Okay. And that's within the T's and C's, as far as I know. And so it's a matter of doing things the right way, doing things properly, but also don't go too crazy and do things excessively. Yeah.
I love all this advice, and thank you so much for sharing, because there is so many gold nuggets in terms of how to do LinkedIn successfully. And I love your comments around people watches you. They don't necessarily comment, and I've found that as well. The people that I have had come through LinkedIn directly have been watching me. They never actually replied to any comments or did any likes on my
Yeah.
post. So that's really, really interesting. They just watch for a long time.
And it's funny when that happens, because it's a little bit weird. You're on a Zoom call or you're on a phone call to somebody, and you ask them, where have they heard about you from? And they say, oh, we've been following your content, or we've been following your articles, or in this case, these days, we've been following your newsletter, etc. And you think to yourself, hang on, I don't even recall any of your comments or anything. And you're quickly scrounging through your newsletters, and they haven't commented on a single one whilst you've got them on the call. And then you figure it out that they've just been sitting in the background. And some people will do that, and that's okay.
I went to a networking event in Sydney, and lo and behold, I walked in and I had I think 7 different people. And honestly, I think some of them knew me from early, and hopefully they're not watching right now. I could not remember them at all. It was and some people I had never met, and they're like, hey, Christine, great to meet you. And I'm like, what's going on? They're like, I see your content on LinkedIn. You do a great job. So that was nice to hear that they were watching and they thought I did a good job. That was, nice feedback, but it was like, wow.
I am actually terrible with people's names. And I have jokingly said to people, I'm terribly sorry. I've got a condition. I suffer from amnesia when it comes to people's names. And they get a bit of a giggle out of that, and they happily introduce themselves to me afterwards. So, yeah, but it's just one of those things. And then the other thing, of course, is a friend of mine said to me many years ago, probably about 5-6 years ago, he asked me how many connections I had. And at that time I said I had about 26 or 27,000, whatever it was. And he said, do you know all of them, do you? I said, no, they're just people who I've connected with and people who've connected with me. And so it's one of those things. You can't remember everybody.
No, not 26,000. And how many do you have now? 80 something thousand, I think, on your...
I'm just short of 27,000 actual connections, and followers all up. I'm up around the 86,000 mark.
Wow, this is amazing. So tell me, what is one of the challenges you face building your business, I guess, online and in general, that we can all learn from?
One of the biggest challenges, I guess, was figuring all of this stuff out. Okay, I started building websites 20 odd years ago, and that's where my online journey as such started. And then I started with LinkedIn years before I had a Facebook profile. Okay, and even in 2013, when I described my official journey as starting, or my proper journey on LinkedIn as starting, and it took me a while to figure out those two things that I described earlier: LinkedIn being a database, number one, and then LinkedIn as a tool to get the conversation started. Okay. And once I figured that part out, then I thought, okay, things are starting to work. Things are becoming much easier because I've got a better understanding of how I can use this stuff to help myself and my business and help other people as well. And I think it just takes time. And I think a lot of it is also the world that we live in these days. I've just turned 60 years old. And so I remember back in the late 90s, early noughties, I was introduced to email, okay, and the internet. And I remember somebody telling me about Google and the other search engines that were popular back then, Yahoo, etc. And so it was this big learning curve. And now we've got AI, which is now described as Web 3.0. Web 1.0, I think, was email. 2.0 was then e-commerce websites, and 3.0 is AI. And thankfully, a friend of mine has given me some amazing insights into AI and the direction it's heading and what the potential of it is. And it's quite extraordinary, these times that we live in. And I describe it as we live in the information age. We have so much information available to us so quickly and so easily, literally at our fingertips, at the touch of a keyboard. And it's very exciting, but it can also be a little bit daunting as well, because it's very easy
overwhelming.
Overwhelming. It's very easy to get caught up and think, well, where do I start? What do I do now? What do I do next? And so sometimes trying to keep things a little bit simple can help make things easier as well.
Yeah, see, so I'm so not into technology. It's like, well, I'm trying to become friends with it now, but it's never been my thing. Yeah. So I'm like always trying to catch up with technology. And that's one of my big challenges in business, is that I have no interest in it, but I know it's useful.
I think it's, as you mentioned a second ago, it's very easy to become overwhelmed. And look, let's face it, we live in a technological world. Okay. I mean, you and I are interstate. We're 1,000 kilometers from each other, and we're on a call like this. And we can do a Zoom call with people pretty much anywhere in the world, or a Skype call, whatever the platform may be. And it's just extraordinary times. And I think that the best tip that I can give is just go with the platforms or the technology that works for you, that you can see is useful to you, and forget the rest. Okay.
That's such good advice, because then you do get overwhelmed.
Yeah. In time, if you need whatever else is out there, it'll come up. You'll find it. You'll do a Google search for what you're looking for, or whatever it might be, and you'll find it. And then you might use something in addition to what you're currently using. But yeah, just keep it simple. Go with what's working for you now. Go with what you're interested in, and forget the rest. Don't get too overwhelmed with it.
I like that, and that works for me because I do one thing at a time. So StreamYard has been a bit of a learning curve, but so was Lead Pages, and so was the, social media. Everything is a bit of a learning curve when it comes to technology for me, because I also come from I'm 51 now, so not a spring chicken anymore either. But it's a learning curve, and it's fun, and it's amazing. Like you said, we can connect with people from around the world. I can have conversations with people in America, Europe, etc., and feel like we're in the same room and build real connection. And I love that, because LinkedIn for me has been, of all the platforms out there, it's the one where I felt people were the most enthusiastic, the most positive, the most supportive. When I put up my first video on LinkedIn, I was so terrified. It's not that I haven't done presentations for years on end, but suddenly putting yourself out there in a video on LinkedIn social media was a whole nother ball game. And I was like reading it out, editing it fully, you could tell how nervous I was. And I must say, I just wrote in the post, I said, hello. That's all I said. And then next line, I said, this is my first video. I'm a little bit nervous. Bear with me. But here's my message. Yeah. And this is my first one. I only had like 1,000, 2,000 followers at the time. And that was 2 years ago. And I had over 25,000 views, I think. And everyone who commented, there was not one negative. Everyone was like, good on you. Well done. Great to see you here. Welcome. And I thought, that's amazing.
The community on LinkedIn is a very authentic, a very supportive community. If you've got a question about business, life, work, whatever it might be, just ask the question on LinkedIn and you'll get the answers. The only thing that I wouldn't recommend that you ask questions about is there are 3 things that you don't ask questions about on LinkedIn: religion, politics, and dating.
Yep.
Those are the 3. Anything else, ask away, and you will get some very supportive answers and support there for you.
I think you're absolutely right. We just have to say hello to Brett Packard. He's one of my favorites. I think he knows you very well too. He says you're a superstar.
Thank you. G'day, Brett. How are you?
And he's someone I met actually through Simon as well, and Naomi, and he's someone I met and had conversations with. He's been on this live show as well, and I've been on his, and he's just amazing. And I've met so many fantastic people. So what
Brett
would be your
an inspiration to many? That I can very confidently say.
Oh, absolutely.
And Brett, we appreciate the work that you do and the insights that you share. So thank you kindly.
I know, because he just gives so much value.
Yeah.
Like, it's just one value video after the other. Normally, I don't watch videos for 4 minutes, but his, I will watch the whole thing. Yeah.
There you go.
And most people don't do that, in terms of not saying his, but in general, people like watch for 2 seconds and then they're off. Yeah. But Brett's stuff, I'll watch the whole thing every single time. So he's doing a fantastic job too. Now, one of the key things that I know that you've been very good at is to take it from building a relationship online to making it come offline. Mm-hmm. What's the secret, if you don't mind me sharing or asking? What's the secret? How do we do it? Because I feel like I'm building relationship on LinkedIn, but I find it a bit harder to make it come offline. Is it just let's have a coffee to say hello, or is it more than that?
Okay, so what you're getting at is you start a conversation on LinkedIn, okay? And In some cases, that can start via your content. In other cases, it can start via the other person's content, and then it can migrate to your inbox. Okay. And so I think the question that you're asking is, how do we get that conversation from your inbox to a Zoom call, a Skype call, a face-to-face meeting, a phone call, an invitation to an event, etc. Okay. Yeah. And it's very interesting. What I have found works well is this phrase, just curious, where to next?
Is that what you put out? Hello.
That's what I put in a message to them, right? Just curious, where do we go next? Where to next? What would you like to do next? Okay. And so what that's literally
I know you said this is not about dating, but this sounds like something you could say even if you want to date, yeah?
You could do. So what that does is it puts the scenario, the ball squarely in their court. And when they come back to you with an answer, that answer will tell you what you're going to do next. Okay. And so when you have somebody who comes back to you and says, why don't we set up a call? Okay. Then you can set up a call, or you can say, just curious, where to next? Would you like to set up a call and chat further? Okay. So give them the option, one or the other. And you'll have people that come back to you and say, yeah, let's set up a call. Happy to talk further. So then when they want to set up a call, you've got to make that easy for them. And Calendly is what I highly recommend that you use to make setting up a call with somebody very easy. You don't want to be in the scenario where you've got messages going backwards and forwards between the two of you. Once you've decided to set up a call, you don't want to be in that scenario where you've got messages where you're trying to decide on a date and a day, and you've got international time zones, etc., that you're trying to differentiate. With Calendly, you just send them a link. You've already set it up with the days and hours that you have available. And from that link, they then choose from what you have available a date and a time that works for them. Okay, so it couldn't be easier. Here's my Calendly link. Let me know if any of those times work for you, and look forward to talking to you further.
And that makes so much sense, because the more links we put in, the more likely they are to drop off. Yeah. So it's just got to be super simple. Make that decision now, get it in the books. How do you even get them onto from your public post and then into having a message conversation? Do you just reach out to people saying, hey, thank you so much for, liking my stuff or stuff, and just building it that way? Being polite and nice?
Let me put it to you this way. If I have somebody who's commenting on a post, I'm going to look at their comment, and just underneath their name is the first third or about 2/3 of the first line of their headline. Okay. Yeah. And so I'm looking at that portion of their headline thinking, is this somebody that I can talk to further? Right. And then if I want to know more, I'm going to open up their profile. And I'm going to check their profile. And so then what I might do is I might send them a message via their profile, and I could look for some mutual areas of interest. Okay. I could even comment on their post and then use that as a way of getting that conversation started within the inbox. Okay. So look for mutual areas of interest and then elaborate on those, try to get that conversation started inside the inbox.
And you know what I love, because what you just told me is it's just about building relationship. It's just about finding a way to have a conversation. Yeah, it's that simple, yet it's so hard for most of us when it comes to sales, because you go, oh my God, what are they thinking? Am I too much? Am I too little? And we've got to stop that, don't we?
I learned long ago that the 6 smartest people in the world, their names start with who, what, when, where, why, and how. And so what that means is if you ask questions with any of those, then you're inviting a response. Okay. And so you might send somebody a message and it might say, just curious, who or what or when or where or why or how. Okay. And then elaborate on that further. And so you're asking them a question, you're inviting a response, and that's what you can use to help get the conversation started.
I love this so much, and I could keep talking to you, but we will finish up now. And I will just say, guess what? I teach at the university at the business school, and today I'm teaching innovation. And guess what we're doing today? We're going through the 5 H, the 5 W's, and the H, the one you just mentioned. That's what we're teaching today.
Fantastic.
So that's a great segue. So thank you so much for being on. I really appreciate this conversation, and I've learned personally so much from this. So if you haven't watched it already, I highly recommend anyone who sees it watch this replay. So how can people reach out to you? Anything that you want to share with us that's coming up, or do you want to?
Feel free to reach out to me via my LinkedIn profile. I still do accept requests to connect, provided they have a message with them. So mention this session today in your message. You've got 300 characters in there, so you should be able to briefly mention that, and happy to connect and chat further.
Wonderful. I like that. So definitely have a conversation with Derick, because you're a goldmine when it comes to LinkedIn, in terms of having been on it for so long and really worked your way through in terms of learning from how you actually do it step by step over the years. Yeah. And now you're just like a amazing expert on it.
Thank you. I really appreciate your kind words. Thank you, Christine. Much appreciated.
Well, thank you so much for being on here today. I really appreciate your time. And yes, feel free to reach out to me, but also definitely connect with Derick. But do make sure you put a comment in there, so it's not just an empty connection request. Yeah, because you don't have. Exactly. We only allowed 30,000, aren't we?
We're only allowed 30,000, but I get hundreds of requests every week, and the ones without a message, let's just say the ones with a message get looked on far more favorably.
Wow, that's a lot. I don't get that many every week, and you just kept them coming in. Wow, that's amazing.
Yep.
Is that just a number thing, or is that just because you're so well known out there, or it's because you do LinkedIn? I wonder.
Look, it's probably a combination of all three. I know influencers, people with 1 million followers, they get a lot more than that. There are some people, their inbox is just inundated, and their requests to connect are just inundated, that they actually don't look at them anymore because there's far too many for them to even consider. So the numbers, the more followers that you have, certainly do have an effect, because one of the things that comes with the more followers that you have is increased reach.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And that's another thing. There's so much to learn here. So if you want to learn about LinkedIn and how to really be successful, I highly recommend you reach out to Derick. So thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. I really loved having a conversation with you and getting to know you on LinkedIn, because I didn't know you until I met you on LinkedIn.
Fantastic. Wonderful, Christine. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you.